everyone, welcome to class. Welcome to our practice for today. I will give you an option to use a block or any props. I'm also going to give you an option if you don't have any of those. If you're practicing with me, wherever you are practicing, that you don't have any blocks there or any straps or any props there with you. And if you do, if this is your first time to do a yoga practice and you are at home, you have books there, we have long towels, you have your normal pillows or your throw pillows. You can grab them now. You have blankets as well. Go ahead and use that. Put them on the side so that it's easier for you to use them, or grab them later on if you do feel like you need them. So since we are practicing a fall-proof yoga today, wherein we are going to practice or we're going to tap into our balance, the static and the dynamic one, you have an option to do your practice today beside a wall, because earlier on we'll be practicing with our standing balances. So feel free to go a little bit on the side on a wall so that you can use that later on. Okay, so since we're practicing fall-proof yoga, that means we're practicing more into tapping into our senses, because of course our sensories are the ones that is helping us with our balance, whether it is static or dynamic. So with static balance, you can see it as an example as when we do our Tadasana or a standing pose, where we find awareness and where we put our weight in our feet, how it is with our core, our legs, our upper body as well. With the dynamic balance, this is where when motions come in our practice, the dynamic balance wherein we say we're looking more into the standing postures and one-legged balances, stability in our knee, stability in our shoulders. We're flowing with transitions from one specific pose towards the other with the use of our knees, our hands, or anything that we do in this 3D space. So that is what we're going to try to step into for today's practice. All right. So we'll start. We'll begin first. If you're ready with your props, just put them on the side. Again, you have an option to do this beside the wall if you feel like you need it. So let's go and start with your practice with your Tadasana or your mountain pose. So not much looking on your screen right now. Just go and maybe just follow my voice, and let's go stand here in your perfect stance. Hands onto the side, Tadasana here. So what your yoga teachers usually say is that in your Tadasana, you have an option to plant your feet hip width distance apart. So that's it. What I usually get into with my Tadasana is that probably maybe my second toe will be the one pointing to the top of my mat. And the cue wherein you are told to say, come into hip width distance apart. Sometimes some people going into hip width distance apart is not their perfect stance. So if you think that you can go a little bit wider than the hips, feel free to do that. Sometimes it's also good to find your toes touching and there's like a small amount of space there in between the heels. That is also a good one. So find your perfect stance on your feet, and then maybe hands onto the sides first. We're going to tap into our feet here. So probably if you feel safe wherever you're practicing right now, feel free to close the eyes and bring awareness to all of your feet. Slowly, once you feel that you are more aware on how your center of balance is right now, we're going to go and move forward and back. So we're just going to allow the weight to go forward and back, tapping into all of our toes and our heels. Making sure that it's not just being felt on one foot, but it's also on the other. So go ahead and do that. And when you close your eyes, you'll feel a little bit more awareness on where your feet stands in. This is also a prompt for you to go a little bit wider on the stance or shorter if you feel like getting into that space feels like you're going to tip off. So in this way, you're finding the edges of each part of this moving forward and down. So if you feel like you're tipping off, that's perfectly fine, as long as you know already where to go and find yourself in once you feel like you're tipping off. Once you're done with that, we're going to move side to side. So again with the eyes closed. Maybe hands onto the side, maybe hands onto the hips if you feel like that can give you more balance. Or again, one hand to the wall so that you can just feel or find awareness or bring awareness to the sides of the feet and of course to the inner arches, that is the ball of each foot. Pressing in to the sides, noticing how all of your body also arrives when you're at the edge of one point of your foot. So how does the core work? How does your quads come in? How does your glutes engage? What's happening in your upper body? And maybe noticing how you're taking a breath at this point. See how the breath comes in. Do we inhale? Do we hold the breath? Or do we exhale here? There you go. Once you feel that you have tipped off good on one side and the other, close your eyes still, and then we're going to move forward, side, back, and then side. So clockwise and counterclockwise here. So if we can, probably with our eyes closed, notice how your body moves with you when you press your weight on one corner of the foot. There you go. So making sure that this practice, this yoga practice, is an opportunity for you to tap into your senses, to find awareness and how you can be more resilient in our static postures like your Tadasana, and how you can be more aware when you go into the dynamic balance, when you are bound to move or to flow, transitioning from one movement to the other, just like when you're walking or biking or anything that you do in movement. There you go. Come back to the center once you're good. Shake the legs if that was too much. Hands onto the side. Now I want you to take one hand to your heart, another to the belly, and then slowly just close your eyes here for a few moments and just notice how you're breathing. Noticing the beating of your heart in the palm of your hand. And find awareness that you are here in your practice today. Finding gratitude for showing up. Finding gratitude for being here. For making time, for creating space for no one else but yourself. Inhale through the nose. Exhale out through the mouth. Let's do that one more time. Inhale through the nose. Exhale out through the mouth. There you go. Once you're ready, open the eyes. Welcome back to your present moment. Still here in our Tadasana practice. Let's go and find again our feet hip distance apart, or any kind of stance on your feet here. Now, how do we do a perfect Tadasana? And most of the time when we say perfect, it's really just making sure that all of the right body parts are active here in your Tadasana. It's not just a normal stand wherein some points of your body are slouched. You usually stand unconsciously, like putting one weight on one foot, or probably here, or probably wherever our hands in. And at some point at that standing, we feel that one leg is so much strained already, and we'll feel that our hips at some point at night before we go to sleep, that why is my hip so tight on this side? Probably because we're standing here leaning onto one side, and we just are so much into it most of the day that we tend to find awareness that we bring all of our body parts active in a stand. So how do we do that? Planting both of your feet at your most perfect stand. Slowly, I want you to feel your kneecaps slightly coming up so that finding your quads engaged. That's number one. So pressing onto the balls of the feet and the heels as well. Maybe not feeling so much, or not pressing weight on your toes so that it's so light that even if you lift them, you're not going to tip off. So that's fine. And then slowly, I want you to bring the inner thighs towards the back of the mat. When you bring the inner thighs towards the back of the mat, there's a slight pelvic tilt right there coming in, and that's not your perfect stance. So what we're doing is that when you put your inner thighs pointing to the back of the mat, we're finding our outer hips coming in. So it's like tucking your tailbone, that your tailbone is pointing towards the heels here. So I know it's a lot. That's why we want it active. So inner thighs again coming out, outer hips coming in. Now when your outer hips come in, so it's like you're tucking your tailbone, you're feeling this yummy stretch on your quads, on your hips here in front. You're feeling your core, or your this one, the mid body, your belly slowly squeezing in. There you go. So that's the thing. Again, inner thighs coming out, that's posterior pelvic tilt, and then slowly pressing your outer hips in. There you go. So that's with the legs. Again, making sure that all of your feet is down. Core engaged. Now what's happening in the upper body? I want you to find your shoulders, your shoulder tips to gently open to the sides like that. So going here, looking at here at the screen, planting my feet hip width distance apart because that I believe is my perfect stance. Inner thigh slowly pointing to the back of the mat. Outer hips plugging in. So there's quite activity there already. Core is engaged. Collarbones or shoulder tips opening up. Hands onto the sides, palms looking forward or pointing to the side. Now, what's with my posture? To keep it everything active, I want to visualize the crown of my head. There's like a tight rope there from the crown of my head towards the sky. So that when I feel like I'm going to go on an inhale, I feel my belly squeezing in, the sides of my hips pressing to the spine, and my back super engaged that it's protruding forward towards my belly. So when I say cinch the waistline, that is how we want to go. So that when we lengthen the spine, everything is engaged. Now you feel that standing is so much active than your normal. This is my standing, right? So that is how you do your Tadasana. Finding yourself in a balance, again, last one. Planting the feet here hip width distance apart, or find your perfect stance on your feet. Now find awareness and pressing on all four corners of each foot, so much so that your toes feel super light. Hands onto the sides, inner thighs coming out, outer hips pressing in, engaging the core from the lower belly to the mid belly here, towards here, your sternum, ribs coming in, collarbones and shoulder tips slowly opening to the sides, and then slowly crown of your head pulling up to the sky. That is your Tadasana. Big inhale through the nose. Big exhale out the mouth. Let it go. There you go. Slowly release. Gently shake your legs, shake your hands, your arms. That was good, right? That was so active. Now, what we're going to try to do is to find awareness in how we're going to go and stand during your one-legged balances. So when it comes to like tree pose or anything as awesome as your dancer's pose, your Natarajasana 2, anything comes with one foot. So we're going to try to do that. See how your core, see how all of your body comes in when you are bound to step on one foot. So let's go here. I'm going to go and look at the screen so you can see me better, but feel free to just look wherever. Find your drishti. Remember that one focal point in front of you, something that is not moving. Maybe it has a color. Maybe you can put the sticker there. So that is the point that you will be looking at whenever you do a standing balances. It helps us with focusing at one point and helps us with finding awareness with our breath and bringing awareness to the specific body parts that we need to stay active in, so that whatever we do with our balances, we are focused. So that is your external drishti, find a focal point outside, and your internal drishti, which is the breath and your intention for today's practice. So let's begin. So planting both of your feet here, hip width distance apart, hands onto the sides, looking forward. I want you to go and shift your weight towards one foot. So I'm going to start with my left. You can start with your right if you want to. And I'm just going to lift my right foot 1 or 2 inches away from the floor. Not coming forward, going back or to the side. Just here. So it's like plugging my femur towards my hip. Like that. So how do I do that? Allowing my core to be active here, firming my inner thighs. Again, squeezing my outer hips towards the front of the mat. Inner thighs pressing out. Plug it in and then down. Let's do that on the opposite side. Don't forget to breathe. Find your focal point, shift your weight to the right foot, and then slowly hover the left foot 1 or 2 inches away from the ground. And there you go. Don't forget to breathe. Inhale, shoulder tips away. Exhale. Last 2. And 1. Release. There you go. That, in a way, gave you this sensation on how you can stay at 1 foot. And if you feel like tipping off on one side, that's perfectly fine. Now you're more aware on how or which body part should be more active, should be more engaged. Remember what we're doing. Strong on the quads, strong on the calves, strong in the core. Open the shoulders like that. Okay? So we'll try to do a little bit more progression there. Again, you have an option to stand beside the wall. If you feel like tipping off the wall or tipping from your balance, go ahead and plant one hand on the wall. Let's go and start. So finding yourself here at the middle of your mat on your Tadasana again. Hands onto the side. Again, shifting the weight to the left foot or your right, whichever you want to go. And then this time around, I'm going to bend my knee towards my heart. Like that. Point or flex the foot. An option to bend the standing knee if this is too much. Pressing it here. Now if you feel that the hip of that bent knee is gently higher than the other, see that tipping up? You're going to plug it down, making sure that it's square on the other hip. That means it's in line with each other. We're going to firm the inner thighs so that we'll feel all our legs still active here. Breathe in here and then relax. Come back, center. Noticing again how you're going to find your drishti there. Let's go try everything on the opposite side. Shifting your weight to the right foot or your left if you did the right one earlier first. Shift your weight to the right foot, bend the left knee this time towards the heart. Again, if this hip is higher than the other, it's going to be harder for you to find your balance. So finding it square, let all of your hips align onto each other, squeezing your inner thighs together, firming those quads in, lifting that right kneecap, shoulder blades open to the sides. You can use your hand for your balance here. And then slowly release. Left foot down. Relax. Shake your legs. So in that moment alone, we're practicing your static and dynamic balance wherein one leg or one limb is outside. Let's go and start progression number 2. So coming into your Tadasana this time, we're going to try to land the lifted foot like your tree pose, maybe to the ankle or maybe a little bit lifted towards the knee or the top of the knee. Or if we have more today, we're going to find that foot on the inner thigh like this. It's an option, not a progression, so see what feels good for you today. Heart, hip, belly is still looking forward. And the knee that is bent is pointing to the side. But if you feel like your hip is gently gluing to the right side edge of the space, go ahead and make sure that it's in front. It's because your hips are not as open now, and that's fine. Making sure also that we're not pressing so much pressure on the inner thigh or on the inner knee or in the inner ankle. So it's still lifted, it's still active here. We're opening up, but we're still active on the quads. Inhale here, find the drishti. Exhale, release. So if you're here with me with the inner thigh, releasing the ankle, releasing the foot. There you go. So the more that we hold our breath also in a standing or a balancing pose, the more it's going to be harder and the more that will wobble. So making sure that the inhales and the exhales are completely coming in and out. Let's go and do the opposite side. Shift your weight to one foot. This time to my right. Left foot towards the ankle, the knee, or maybe to the inner thigh. Looking at one point in front. Heart, hip, belly looking forward. Again, feeling the core engage. Strong on the quads. Pressing the heel down. Lifting the crown of your head to the sky. Shoulder blades open up here. Big breath here. Big breath out. Again, you can use your hand on the wall if you feel like this is too much. You can also bend the standing knee if you feel that that can give you more stability. One big inhale. And exhale, let it go. Release. Come back center, shake the legs. We're done with your standing balances. We're going to try to move on with a little bit more on the knee. So knee stability. If you have been doing yoga, when we say knee stability, we can somehow imagine that we're doing, well, we are going to do it. So we're going to work on your chair pose. We're going to work on your warrior 1, your warrior 2, and your warrior 3. So we're going to work more on that into our dynamic balance. So coming into your chair pose, planting both of your feet again, big toes touching, somewhat a small space between the heels, or if that is not working for you on your chair pose, find your perfect stance on your feet. Just making sure it's not so wide that it's wider than the hips or as wide as your mat. So planting the feet, your hip width distance apart. What I usually say is that I'm gonna hinge from my hips and then bend the knees, finding an invisible chair so much that when I plant my fingertips towards the ground, that is my perfect chair. Finding myself here looking at my toes, pressing more on my heels rather than my toes here. I'm going to lift my hands up and overhead here. Arms beside the ears, shoulders down, ribs are in. Engage on the glutes, engage on the quads. Some people find chair pose easier if their knees are together. Feel free to do that. Feel free if to take it wide is the thing for you. What we want here is our core engaged and our knees super stable. That even if we lift one foot up, this one is still strong. Yeah? So, going into your yoga practice somehow mimics all of the movements that we do in our real life. So notice how this one works for you, and knowing that working on your knee stability allows us, like what your theme today is, to be fall proof. So again, coming into chair pose, hinge from the hips, bend the knees, tap the floor, hands reach up high. Palms looking at each other, shoulders relaxed. If our shoulders are tight today, you can take your hands a little bit wide here. Inhale, looking forward or looking up. Progression is to take your hands in prayer and then slowly release. There you go. Let's go for more. Warrior 1, warrior 2, warrior 3. So I like to start warrior 1 probably, since we're going to our balance, is to start from your Tadasana, going to the warrior 1, warrior 2, and warrior 3. Some people find it easier if they come from a low lunge. They can go and try that. So finding yourself in a forward fold, stepping one foot at the back. So left or right foot, I'm going to start with my right, plugging the ball of my foot here. Now, looking down, looking at your back foot. This time it's my right, so my right big toe is plugging in. Making sure in your Ashtanga practice, it's heel to heel, wherein my front heel is in line with my right heel. What I don't like about this one is that it's not good for most bodies. So what I want to do, or I want you to try this time, is that making sure the left shin or the front shin is still straight here. That means the left knee is aligned with the left ankle. I'm going to try to land my back foot or my right foot here aligned with where my right hip is in. In that way, when I land or spin my back heel flat, my hip, that when I rise, it's still looking forward. This is how I go with my warrior 1. And if I feel like my stance on my back foot is a little bit wider than usual, I'm going to go and step it forward, but still swing my back heel flat so that my right hip is pressing forward, my left hip is pressing back. Now, what we usually see on social media is that you're seeing the ribs come out and the booty is touching at the back. This is not making this warrior 1 at the most. So what we want to do is to squeeze the belly in. Remember, cinching the waistline. That's why we have our hands up and overhead usually in our warrior 1, because it allows us to find more length and allows us to find our core a little bit more braced. Tucking the tailbone, clenching on the glutes, working on the hamstrings here on the back leg, bending on the left knee again, still in line. What usually happens is also when we're talking about knee stability, the front knee tends to come in. So what we want to try to do there, when it's coming in, we're going to feel our left heel gently press towards the midline, so that it's staying strong. So heart, hip, belly looking forward, hands will reach up and overhead. That is our warrior 1. There you go. Knee stability. How do we flow to warrior 2? I'm going to open my heart to the side. Now toes are going to point to the long edge of the mat. Left hand forward, right hand at the back. Shoulders are in line with the hips, nothing too far forward or lazy at the back. Sometimes warrior 2, the stance from warrior 1 to warrior 2 is a little bit short for warrior 2. So you can try to slide that back foot a little bit longer to the back of the mat. Hands onto the side. Now, how do we know that your shoulders are aligned with the hips? Because usually some yoga studios don't have mirrors, or it's really more of like finding the sensations in your body that is aligned. First off, the weight on your feet, it's not just in front, it's also at the back. Gently finding awareness on how your hamstrings are working here. This one is strong, this one is engaged, so that it's not just here in the front, it's not just here in the back. And find your ribs. Are your ribs going here? Or maybe we can push the right ribs. This is my right because my right leg is at the back. So my right ribs swinging or gently pressing towards the back. So hands on each side, imagining that there's two people here, one in front, one at the back, and they're playing a tug of war in your hands. So everything is in line, everything is in balance. Looking forward, your drishti is supposedly on your left toes. I want you to go and find your left big toe in front. Again, if we can see the left big toe, that means our left knee is gently coming in. So what we want, maybe shorten the stance for a bit. Pull that left heel towards the front midline. And that is how we're gonna find our warrior 2 in line. Alright, so from here, we're gonna go to your warrior 1 again. So maybe shortening the stance. Hands up and overhead again, heart to belly looking forward. Now we're gonna go to your warrior 3. Dynamic balance. I'm gonna shift towards my Superman so that I can shift my weight towards my front foot. Gently placing my right heel up here. Shortening my stance so that my weight is just on my front foot. If you haven't tried a warrior 3 before and you think that your balance is not okay today, you can take your hands here on the floor. This is the part wherein you can find your props, your blocks. Put them on the hands or just spider fingers here. And then I'm going to lift my back leg at the back. Point or flex that foot. But I want to make sure that you're in line here or finding more awareness in your balance. So try flexing the foot as if your toes are pointing to the floor. Firm the inner thighs here. Again, sides of the hips are in line with each other. Option to bend the standing knee if this is too much already. Or lengthen them, extend them long so you can find that strength. Again, not much weight on the hands. If you're coming from our Superman earlier, you can take your hands reaching forward or hands in prayer here or to the sides. When you reach forward, slowly lift, right leg at the back. Remember earlier, opening the shoulder tips to the side. Hands will be there to take your balance. Option to bend the left knee if this is too much or extend them long if you have some more. Firming the inner thighs, lower belly in, engage the core. And then slowly, let's go to your Tadasana. Stepping forward. There you go. You're shaking the legs, making sure you're good. So much awareness on all of our body parts here. In this practice today, you're going to find awareness on which part of your body finds more awareness, on what are the muscles that we need to activate so that we can get more on our poses in our yoga practice. Let's try everything on the opposite side. So, I'm just going to go here so you can see me better. Coming back to our Tadasana. Planting our feet hip width distance apart. Hands onto the side. Slowly, inhale, maybe find your sun style today. Hands reach up high. Or Urdhva hands in prayer, gazing at your thumbs, open the throat. Exhale, gently look down, open the palms to the sides, hinge from the hips, soften the knees to gently fold down to your Uttanasana. Halfway lift, looking forward. Lengthen the spine. Exhale, fold all the way down. This time, we're going to step the left foot at the back. Low lunge. So maybe spider fingers here already to make some space between the heart and the knee. Making sure the right shin is straight here. Right knee in line with the right heel. If you did your right earlier, try this with the left. So the ball of your left foot, look at the back foot here. Again, usual is heel to heel or heel to the inner arch. This time, I want you to go and plug the foot in line with your left hip, or where if your right hip is there, go ahead and try that in. And then slowly spin the back heel flat. And then slowly making sure no no weight on your hands so that when you rise to your Virabhadrasana 1, heart, hip, belly is looking forward. There you go. Right shin is straight. Find your right big toe. Again, if you can't find them, that means maybe your knee there is in line in the center. So we want to make sure that your knee is in line with the second big toe or your right hip. Big breath here. Big breath out. And then let's go to your warrior 2. Opening your heart to the side, hands reaching again. Shimmy your back foot a little bit longer on the stance on your warrior 2. Gazing at your front fingertips here. Shoulders stack on your hips. Left ribs, the ribs at the back, we're going to gently press it to the left hip so that they're in line, making sure that your weight is not just in the front foot, it's also at the back. Breathing in here, committing to the bend in the right knee. Breathing out. Last one. And then slowly release. Come back to your warrior 1 again. Shimmy the left foot or the back foot forward a little bit so you can shorten your stance. Hands up and overhead, heart, hip, belly looking forward. Let's go to your Superman. Left heel at the back will come up. Again, option to take your hands onto the floor, or if you have some more today, I'm going to move here at the center. You're going to go and fly. So shift your weight to the front foot, and then making sure that your inner thighs are still aligned, we're going to lift the back heel. Imagining there's an invisible wall at the back. Press that in. Lift the left kneecap. Lift the right kneecap. Engage all of your glutes here. Lower belly in. Shoot the crown of your head towards the front. Last one breath. And then slowly, whenever you're ready, let's go back to your Tadasana. Left foot, plants down. That's it. Release your hands. Relax. We're going to try to work on the floor. I know it's way longer than a usual flow with regards to your poses that were being held, but in this way we're cueing in the specific muscles so that, again, our theme is for you to be fall proof. So these things, making sure that we're working on it so that you can find stability and resilience in your body, so that whatever is from our outside environment comes us in. Like someone is going to push you away, you have more strength on your knees, you have more strength on how you play with your feet. You can find more awareness and how you can fall probably better, or if not fall at all. Let's go to your hands and knees. So finding awareness on your floor. Plugging in all of your hands and all of your knees, coming to tabletop. Shoulders in line with your wrists, opening the fingers out wide, hips stack on the knees. Neutral on the spine here. Now finding awareness on your shoulders. When we go and try to retract and protract, meaning it's like still neutral on the spine and the belly. It's just our heart pressing to the ground or to your earth, and your shoulder blades are pressing onto each other. That is how we retract. And going the opposite way. Opening the shoulder blades to the side so that your heart can come through. Pressing on all of your hands here, your finger pads and your knuckle pads as well. Protracting and retracting your shoulders allows you to bring awareness to how your shoulders are when you are in all of your hands and knees and feet. And slowly, making sure that you're aware on how your core is. You can take your knees a little bit farther, maybe 1 or 2 steps farther, as if your shoulders are now in line with, your shoulders are still in line with your wrist, but your shoulders can come to a straight line towards your knees here. Engaging the core. Usually, this is what happens. Your belly is dropped and your tailbone is pointing up. I want you to tuck the tailbone, shift forward into a planche. Grounding down here with your knees. You can tuck both of your feet if you want more stability. Firm the inner thighs in. Notice if your belly can reach the sky or just the spine. Pressing on all of your hands, try protracting your shoulders. That is your stability for your core and your hands and your knees. Big breath here. And then slowly release. Take your knees back in, crawl them forward once more. Slowly take a seat at the back. If this is not an option, find your block, place them here in the middle of your ankles. Take your hands, slowly find infinity circles first. If that was too much on your wrist, or if you haven't warmed up your wrists for today, this is a good way to do. Or Hands in prayer. Open the palms and then roll the fingertips to the ground and into the front and into the sky. There you go. So anything that you're doing with your hands, and if you feel like you're pressing your weight there, making sure that your wrists are warmed up. Now let's try your plank. If this is your first time to do a plank, I'll show you how to do it. Finding stability on your hands and of course working on your core. Ground down again, like what we did earlier on our tabletop. Shoulder stack on your wrist, open the fingers out wide. If the shoulders are tight today, maybe turn them out a little, like that, but not so much like this. So turn them out as if your index finger are looking at the top of your mat. Just so if your shoulders are tight, but if not, just the middle finger pointing to the front. Alright, so see what feels good for the shoulders today. And then slowly, once you feel that it's engaged here, protract the shoulders as if you're widening the shoulder blades to the side. Take one foot to the back here. The feet is in line with the hip. And then slowly go to the opposite side. Engaging the core, pressing the weight on all of your hands and all of your feet. Step into the ball of that foot. Maybe your ankles are aligned with the balls of the foot. Nothing too far at the back or too much. This is good, but that's not where we are right now. So shoulders in line with the wrist. Core engaged, quads engaged, firming the inner thighs. One big breath. And then release. Knees down. Untuck the feet. Take a seat. If you haven't done a plank before, that will feel really challenging. You have an option to drop the knees down, same as what we did earlier. That is also a good way to bring awareness to your core. Let's go for some more. Going to your plank, we're going to switch to a side plank. How do we do that? So hands onto the floor. This is just an option, okay? If you feel like we're not there today, just go and take a look and maybe we'll do it in the future. So planting on your hands, feet at the back. I'm going to shift my weight towards this time. It's my left hand. Go and do this in your right if you feel like it. I'm going to drop my heels to the ground so that my toes will point to the opposite edge of the mat, which is my right. Shift my weight to the left hand. Maybe spider fingers first on the right hand. And then slowly take my hand to the sky. So my heart, my hip, and belly is looking to the right. Hips are stacked onto each other. So if my right hip is stacking to the left, not a little bit opening to the sky. It's just here. If this is good, hands will reach up. Energize from those fingertips so that you can lift up. Take your hips to the sky. And then slowly ground down. Doing this on the opposite side. Grounding on my heels, toes pointing to the left. Shift my weight to the right hand, spider fingers first on the left. And then slowly stack. Like that. Your drishti is still on the mat. If we have more, we can look in front or towards the thumb to the sky. Ground down. And then release. Knees down. And then take a seat. Whew. There you go. Again, these workout or these exercises or these yoga poses are here for you, again, to make you foolproof. Whether you are in your static or in your dynamic, anything that we're doing, making sure that these body parts are strong allows us to bring resilience in our muscles, in our body parts, so that whatever the outside environment throws at us, we're there, braced, core is strong, everything is engaged. If we take this in practice, that means not doing this just once, but practice comes in every single time whenever we feel like we need it. Once, twice, or thrice a week. Practice is the most important part on your foolproof yoga. It's not just one time. We need to make sure that we build the strength so that will be better. So find your quick seat, your easy seat, your Sukhasana, left or right foot in front, whichever feels good. Hands on the knees, or maybe palms up. Maybe one hand to your heart, another to the belly. Or hands in prayer in Anjali. Backs of your thumbs here towards your heart center. Close your eyes and just notice how you breathe. We're not warming or not cooling down yet, so that's okay if your heart is beating fast. Maybe you can bring awareness to how you are breathing right now. Allowing this visualization of how the breath comes in from the nose to the throat expanding on all of your lungs, tapping at the bottoms, the very bottom. And then as you exhale, visualize it coming out, ribs coming back in, ribs shrinking in, chest slowly presses down, traveling to the throat and out through the nose or through the mouth. And bring awareness to how you're feeling right now, compared it to how you were feeling before you step into the mat, before you step into the practice. Again, finding gratitude in each and every practice that we have. Gratitude for the space that we're allowed to have. Gratitude for our bodies, for being able to move. Gratitude for our mind and our hearts, all of our body, for taking time, for creating space for no one else but ourselves. Honor the body, honor your journey. Namaste, everyone.